Thank you for tuning in to the Skill Stadium podcast, episode 90. I am your host, Keith Williams. I really enjoy doing this work because every guest I have has a story to tell, and every story they tell is as unique as a fingerprint. So every week we feature professionals in the skill trades, that's business owners, educators, people giving real world advice. You know, we don't run any ads on the podcast. We're not trying to sell you anything, but if you found value, please share it and leave a 5-star review. All right. So my guest today, this is going to be a great episode. My guest grew up in Chicago and has lived in 6 different states. My guest is a 15-year veteran of the construction industry, and she's the president of LMS General Contractors. She's most proud of finishing law school while she was working, and during her free time, she enjoys traveling overseas. Please welcome Jennifer Todd to the Skill Stadium podcast. Jennifer, how are you this afternoon?
I'm great, Keith. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Jennifer, something I wanted to say, you have a strong online presence, and I'm not sure if this is something that you were intentional about, but I was looking, one of the things I noticed was that, you're the first woman featured on Construction Business Owner magazine. And I like the fact that you highlight, your background, your story. Was this something that you were pretty conscious about doing, or is this something that naturally evolved?
I think it started off as a natural evolution of sorts. And I was actually the first Black business owner and on their magazine. They've had other women, but none of them were business owners. And I was actually the first. But yeah, it started really off as an evolution, and then it kind of caught fire. And so now I am pretty intentional about the things that I share online and post and things that I discuss.
Yeah, because I think that is so critical, because I believe it opens opportunities, because we're having this podcast interview right now because I found you online. And yeah. Like I said, I just think there are a lot of people who don't take full advantage of the power of platforms like LinkedIn. I grew up at a time where LinkedIn didn't exist. And, I'm pretty sure you grew up at a time before maybe we're aging ourselves, but, you didn't grow up with this. So I feel you have an appreciation for it.
Yeah. And actually, I'm even, it's funny you say that, because I'm really new to LinkedIn. And I mean, it's in the past couple of years when I started becoming more actively going to conferences, everyone kind of like shamed me, like, what's your LinkedIn? And I'm like, I have it, but I don't use it. And they're like, oh, what? You're not using your LinkedIn? And so I was just like, I'm going home to get on my LinkedIn right now. And I think even the last day of the conference, I literally started posting a profile picture and, making those connections before I left. I was at a conference in San Francisco, actually. I said, let me get this together, because obviously these people know something that I clearly am not aware of. So, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I think it's the standard right now. As you look at any professional that you're interacting with, they're going to go check that out. It's probably the first thing that people will check out before even maybe doing business or considering hiring you. That's why I feel like people who have built up that online presence, they know what they're doing. That's, it's a smart decision.
Yeah, it's really the resume before the resume.
You got it. That's the best analogy. You nailed it right there. So, you're a business owner, and I don't think the average person realizes all the responsibilities and duties of a business owner. Can you walk us through, if there is actually a typical day, but walk us through what it's like to be in your position?
Yeah, so basically you just wake up and you go to a job site, take a couple of pictures and leave. And that's what people think that encompasses. But no, it is very strenuous and very tedious being a business owner, because one, you're responsible for so many aspects, as in the people and as well as the projects. My typical day, it really ranges by what's going on. We're actively working. That consists of, 6 a.m. wake up, going through emails, going to the job site, conferring with the team about what the tasks are for today in the field, speak with the office to ensure that they are supported and they have everything they need, equipment, material-wise. then you are looking at upcoming jobs, and you're connecting with people, and progress meetings, and reviewing payments, and it just there are a bevy of things that go on during the course of my day. So it's a lot. So
yeah, definitely. No, I understand. And what a lot of people don't realize too, I think, is also the biggest skill set is dealing with people, personalities.
I
know
just had
that.
to deal with excavators every day and bobcats, I mean, my life would be a breeze. But no, there are people that have to operate the machine. So yeah, it's definitely, as I always say, construction is a people-driven business, and so you really rely on your team a lot in this business. It's definitely a team sport.
Definitely. Did you play any sports growing up? Did that help you?
I did some track and cross country, but all my life I have said that I wasn't a team sport person, and then I entered a career that is essentially revolves around being in a team setting. So go figure.
Yep. Well, hey, people evolve and they acquire skills as they go, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So think back to when you were just starting your business as a Black woman in a male-dominated industry. What were some of the biggest challenges you faced?
Oh, my goodness. I mean, the challenges are still, they just become grander the bigger that you get and the more work that you do. As a double minority Black woman in this industry, there are many challenges, one being funding and financing. As many people know or may not be aware of that, Black businesses in general are overly mentored and underfunded. So finding the appropriate financing to do the project, scale the business, and grow the business, that always remains a challenge. The second thing is that historically, Black contractors are not generational. They're not family-owned businesses. So a lot of business owners are first generation. So who do you have to glean that information from if you're just starting out? You don't have a lot of mentorship or people that you can really ascertain that information from. And as far as just being a woman, being a woman and being a Black woman, you're going to be challenged repeatedly. So from the female perspective, questioning your competency. And so that's always a big thing for women in this industry, is having the confidence and the competence to know what they're doing, because women, we thrive on we feel more confident when we're competent about what we're speaking about and what we're doing. So just reassuring yourself that you know what you're doing, you're just as good as the next guy, and you're able to get the job done.
Definitely. I want to take on the first one, which is over mentored and under financed. Are there programs that are coming up? Like, how do we solve that? How do we fix it? Like, I know that's a problem. Is it a question of maybe networks? Is it a question of doing research and finding programs that cater to minorities? How do we fix that? Because that is major, because construction is a capital intensive business.
Mm-hmm. It is. And it's expensive to start and maintain a business. Every year it becomes more so with the litigious aspects. But to answer your question, you've said the P word, which is programs. And I am not the strongest proponent of programs, because they kind of lead to nowhere. It's great that you have programs for minority contractors that are geared to minority contractors. And it's great that these companies are willing to share the information and the fundamentals about doing the business. But if you're a business that's 5+ years old, you kind of know how to do your job. You know how to operate your business. Your problem is that you need financing and you need opportunities. And so that's what you're struggling with. Me having gone to law school, me being an engineer, and having done this for 15 years, the program isn't really going to benefit me. What I need is an opportunity. So I think it's important that these companies stop just thinking that everyone is a startup. Every minority business is not lacking knowledge. They are lacking resources. And that's what takes the business to the next level.
Yeah, so it's about making sure that the help is going in the right direction. And I really feel that it's going to be the relationships that are going to make the difference.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because Yeah,
relationships.
because like you had mentioned before, you said that they're generational for non-minority businesses are going up against companies that have generational wealth.
And then they have
That's
established networks and they have established resources. They, in turn, if you're, a third generation family business, you work with other companies that have been in businesses for 30 plus years. And you work with other banking companies and financiers that have done business with your grandfather or your dad. So you're just passing on the resource to the next generation. And oftentimes we see that Black contractors, they don't have that allyship when it comes to the funding aspect or the opportunity. So how can you scale your business to a $10 million, $100 million company if you don't have the opportunities and the financing to get there?
Yeah. I do believe that, in your industry, I think resources are a key ingredient to success for any minority or Black-owned organization. Talk to me about how do you compete? So how do you now go and attract talent? So let's say we address the finance piece. How do you now go and attract the best talent? Because that really is going to make, who you hire obviously is going to make a big difference in the success of your business. And so how do you go out and attract some of that best talent that's out there so you can compete now?
Of all the issues that I have as a business owner, attracting talent has never been a problem. The problem with us is being able to substantiate all the people that reach out to us. I know that I shared something recently on LinkedIn about, do we have a labor shortage or is it an outreach shortage? Because on average, LMS gets phone calls, five phone calls a week from people seeking opportunities. I personally get messages via social media, Instagram and LinkedIn from people all over the world, at least 7 to 8 messages a week from people looking for opportunities, both male and female. And the difference is that they are either women or they are people of color. So when people say that they're having a hard time finding labor, my question is, what outreach efforts are you doing and where are you looking for people? Because they find me. I don't even know how they find me. I don't know how they get our office number. I'm not really sure, but they find us all the time and they send their resumes over. They send their information, their paperwork, their asbestos certifications over. So finding talent is not difficult. And our team, we've worked with the same people 10 plus years. Some of the guys we work with and that operate equipment for us, both male and female, they've 15 years, 20 years, 30 years, they've been doing this. So we've got some top tier talent.
Definitely. I think what it is people have been used to doing things a certain way and they've always been loose. They have a profile of here's who we typically hire. Here's where we typically go to hire these people. So that well has run dry for them. So their perception is there's nothing out there. That's the feeling I get, as opposed to going, hey, let's look in this community over here, this group of folks, women, minorities. This is a whole nother market that we're not looking at because we've been just doing it this way.
Yeah, and also too, if you think about it, the roles have kind of reversed. Whereas we are the employers, we were interviewing people. Employees are now interviewing us. They're doing the deep dive and they're doing the research on the company to see if it's a good fit for them personally and professionally. So if they're going to a website that shows absolutely zero representation, or there are no people of color or women in the C-suite positions, then they're going to be saying, hey, this is probably not the place for me. This isn't a place that I can grow in. They're looking at the company's social issues and where they stand politically. And, like I said, it's much more than just me working at this company and what's the salary. There's a lot more involved in the hiring practices today than we've seen in the past.
I agree, because even as a business owner, when I'm reaching out to people, I go and I check out their social media. There's so much information now that you can learn about people. You sort of know who you're dealing with. You can go through somebody's Facebook and get a pretty good idea of who you're dealing with. I look at who they're affiliated with, and I hate to judge people, but yeah, you do. you do start, if they're making ridiculous comments or statements.
Yeah, I do that regularly. I'll follow someone and then they'll say something just very, very radical or crazy. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to unfollow this person. All right. This is not a person that I choose to engage with. And it makes it much easier to know who you're dealing with, because I'd like to see it coming forward, and rather than stabbing me in the back, I'd like to see it in my face. So show me ahead of time so I can know. I'm like, oh, okay, all right, let me move on. So
I promise you, people will let you know who they are if you look. You pay attention, they will.
If they were solid before, these past couple of years, there's been a lot of exposure going on both ends. So yeah,
definitely. So after establishing yourself as a business, you decide to get a law degree, which much respect to you for that, because that is not easy, because you did that while you were working. Why did you do that, and how has that helped you?
Shortly after I made and I can't say made the decision, I'll say I was forced into the decision of starting LMS because I went through 6 to 7 top general contractors and was repeatedly rejected, saying, hey, we don't have anyone that looks like you. We don't think you're ready. You need a little more time before you can apply for a position like this. Well, hell with it. I'll go ahead and start LMS myself.
I like that.
But in doing that, I realized that you are still a Black contractor and you are a female contractor. And having worked for a Black contractor before, I saw the upheavals that they had to deal with and all that went into it. And people don't realize how litigious construction is and can be. So for me, I knew that I had to protect myself. And if I just don't have the funds to have a top tier attorney on retainer, then I better go retain myself. And so that's why I made the decision to law school when I started LMS.
Yeah, smart. That oh my gosh, any business. I mean, I struggle with that too. Like, you always have to have legal representation, but that is very smart. I never even thought about that perception.
Because I've worked, the thing about it is over the 15 years, I've worked in the field and in the office. So I've seen what disruption does when something goes awry. If you have a change order at stake, or, there's some sort of job delay, you're losing money in the field. You've got people standing around. And of course, the guys don't care because, hey, they're getting paid anyway. But also you're being held up. So, and if you have if you're a smaller firm, more than likely you have an outside attorney. And so you have to call the attorney, wait for them, the turnaround time, explain the situation. So now you're 2, 3, even 4 days in sometimes. And it's just it's not feasible to do when it's something that you can do yourself. Not everyone can, but if you can do it, then I just, I saw what happened and I said, oh, I want no part of that. So.
No, that's smart. That's smart, because I'll tell you that that makes a big difference. And it gives you just a level of confidence as you are working in your business. Just knowing that you understand the legal ramifications, because I'll tell you that scares a lot of business owners. I know for me personally, that's one thing that's top on my list of things that I fear is legal challenges.
Yeah. But it's one of the things that you should always, with any business, not even just exclusively construction, you should be hoping for the best, but of course planning for the worst. And so I encourage everyone to just, go down the what if scenarios of all the terrible things that could happen. And if they don't, great. But if they do, you won't fear it coming. And the other things too, just going to law school really changed my mindset as far as just taking the emotion out of it. Your business, that's your baby. You put your blood, sweat, and tears into what you do every day, and you love it. But you also have to take a step back and say, am I making logical decisions, or is this ego feeding this decision behind what I'm doing? Like, oh, he says I have to do it today. Oh no, I'm going to do it tomorrow. Like, is that me, or is that my ego speaking? So it really, being a lawyer, going to law school really trains your brain to think more from the logical than the emotional standpoint of things, and that's really helped me along the way.
Could save you a lot of time and money if you're using logic and not emotion.
Yeah.
So I've had some great conversations with people offline about equality, discrimination, racism. Why do you think people are hesitant? Because we're talking about this. Why do you think people are hesitant to talk about that subject in a public forum like we're doing now?
Oh, well, you want me to talk about it? No.
I put you on the spot.
Yes, I think that people don't want to talk about it because they don't want to appear racist, or they don't want to appear admitting that there is a problem. Because if you admit that there is a problem with racism, or there is discriminatory acts that take place, then you just might be part of the problem. And so no one wants to wave that flag and say, yeah, it exists. But it is very alive and well in all industries, and construction is no exception. A couple of years ago, I penned a viewpoint with Engineering News Record, and it was the highest read article viewpoint of that year, and it talked about my experiences being a Black woman in construction and what I go through. I mean, for my white counterparts, your concern is the guy a butthole, or, are you going to be able to do the job? When you are a Black contractor, and probably for other contractors, in some cases, people of color, there are a whole nother subset of issues that you encounter on the job site. There is overt racism. There is, microaggressions. There are implicit bias. I've worked on projects where people admitted that they had never, ever worked with a Black contractor before, and they weren't sure if we were going to be able to get the job done, if we were going to be able to afford to pay our workers. Not that they were volunteering to help, but these were the things that they felt comfortable saying. We've had instances of being called the N-word. We have had KKK sprayed on our heavy equipment before, fuel lines cut. And so I am a millennial. So these are not things that have happened, 50 years ago. These are things that have happened in the course of the last 15 years. And so when you talk about racism and equality, yes, no one likes to say the R word, but people are very comfortable talking about diversity and inclusion. And that's just, to me, has just become buzzwords. I see a lot of it being said, but I don't see a lot of it being implemented today.
Well, I think people say that just because they want to feel like they're doing something, even though they're not really doing anything. Mm-hmm. It's like a check the box. Yeah. As opposed to dealing with what's really going on the ground. I think that we've had a number of incidents, such as the gentleman in Minnesota. I'm forgetting his name. George Floyd. Yeah, that really opened some eyes.
Oh yeah.
So I think that was. It's sad, but it takes something so egregious that is right there on film for people to say, oh, wow, because, we might have a problem.
At any other time, what we've seen in the past when it comes to things like that, as Black people, we know that these things happen every single day. If you have a father, if you have a brother, if you have a husband who is a Black man, he has experienced this, or someone he knows has experienced, instances such as this. But this was a case where we saw it publicly and on tape, and you couldn't explain it away. It wasn't that he was a gangbanger, a criminal, or he's, hijacked somebody or stole something. There was nothing you could say that at this very moment he was committing a crime. And the video was so long, that 7 minutes is a long time. It doesn't seem like a long time, but it is. And so I think it just was powerful in the sense that it could not be explained away. And it didn't make any sense that it didn't need to take place. So
I do feel that one of the best ways to solve it is just exposure. So folks like yourself going in and working with folks that you said, hey, we've never worked with a Black contractor. Mm-hmm. So it also puts a lot of pressure on you, whether it's fair or not, that you have to perform on such a level so you give an opportunity for the next person coming along.
It does. It's a lot of
pressure
because when I talk to different general contractors about partnering together and doing work together, they are so quick to tell me how this person can't fill out a pay application, or this person doesn't necessarily show up on time, or they take on too much work and they're not able to always complete it on time. And it's just like, no, you keep giving them chances after chance after chance. But if a Black contractor, makes one mishap, then it's over for everyone. There are no do-overs. And especially if you're a woman, because they're expecting you to fail. So you don't get a chance to, we don't always get the chance to make mistakes. It's like, she's a woman, of course. What did you expect? This was going to happen. Oh, they're a minority contractor. They don't have it together. So, yeah.
Let me ask you another question on this. In terms of how this could be solved, do you think that part of this is the older generation? I get the feeling that the younger generation is a little bit more open. Mm-hmm. Again, I'm not on the construction site, so, but that's kind of my perception in my head just because of when some people grew up. But do you think the younger generation, we have hope for the younger generation, perhaps?
Yes and no, because at the end of the day, when you're talking specifically about racism, it's a learned behavior. That's true. We aren't taught to hate someone because of the color of their skin or how they look or how they sound or what country they're from. That's something that you are inherently taught within your house. It's, mm-hmm. And so if that is promoted, even if you're 20, you still have that same mindset a lot of the times, because that's what you know. So, yes, we see it a lot with the older generation, but they are definitely people my age that share the same sentiments as their grandfather and father. And it's sad because at this point you have so much more exposure to different cultures and different races than we had before. Before it was just.
It's very hard not to run into somebody who looks different from you mm-hmm. in a general working environment.
Yeah. Unless you're from a small town, but if you live in a city, it's just that behavior is just really inexcusable, and it makes no sense.
Yeah. I also think it takes leadership saying, "Hey, we're not going to tolerate this," because the leadership drives everything. Because if the owner says, "Hey, I'll fire you if you're going to be racist, you're going to not toe the line. This is our culture. Mm-hmm. You lose your job." That, I think people pay attention to that. When you mess with people's money, their jobs go away. They can. That'll change behavior. That'll influence at least.
It does. But the problem comes in when you're dealing with large. In our case, when you're dealing with large contractors that are multi-layered, where there are 5 layers to get to the president. He has no idea what's going on. He's on a private plane. He doesn't know what's going on the job site. He's getting the reports on his iPhone.
But then it's who he's hiring.
Yeah.
But it's who you're hiring.
So,
but that I still feel like at the top, I hear what you're saying, but if they're hiring good people below mm-hmm, them mm-hmm. that reflect their values.
And they have to care, because a lot of times if it doesn't affect for some owners, if it's not affecting their bottom line, a social issue is not going to change the way they do business. I don't care. So what? He's racist. He gets the job done. So
I also do believe that putting people on blast is also another good tactic too, because people are becoming more socially conscious. I mean, we've seen people go on a racist tirade, and next thing you know, people are pulling up where they worked, and that person is out of a job. I've seen we've all seen it, right?
I love to do it. So I really do. I think that if you're going to be bold enough and emboldened to attack somebody verbally or physically, and they're going about their day, minding their business, then you should be able to accept the ramifications. As they say, keep that same energy that you had when you were attacking somebody. I have there are not enough tears for me to say, okay, it's just because like I said, it doesn't, we're in an age now at this point. For me, if I were that person, as soon as I saw someone put out their phone, I would stop, because I would think about my livelihood, and me spouting racist antics to you is not worth me losing my job and my house and, being embarrassed in my city. It's just not. But for some people it is, because I see that they don't care. And so
they double down.
Yeah, they do double down. And I'm like, this is not going to end well.
I know.
But sometimes, humility is needed in cases. And I think people have gotten in their mind, they've become so conditioned to think that they can continue a behavior because they associate no ramifications with it, because that's the way that it's always been. And that's what we see going on in construction now is, hey, we have a labor shortage because that's the way it's always been. Your hiring practices, that's the way it's always been. You're seeing, I saw an article about some nooses that were placed all around a job site. That's the way that's the way it is. And it's like, it makes no sense. It really is. It's unjustified behavior, and more business leaders do need to be more active about saying something and showing that type of behavior should not be tolerated for anyone. It doesn't matter what their race or ethnicity is. It just shouldn't be tolerated at any point of time because people are there to work.
Agree 100%. Hey, 3 things you think Black women in construction who are just getting started could do to fit into the skilled trades?
3 things. I would say the first thing is to be open about the opportunities. Don't be stuck on the fact that you are a woman and so you can't do something that you surely have an interest in doing. And at the same time, don't say no to an opportunity because it isn't what you want to do. I started off as a receptionist, and so I had no idea that it would propel me to where I am today, but I remained open to the opportunity, and it was great to have started at the bottom because it allowed me to do all the jobs. And so now I understand how a business is supposed to operate, how long it takes, and I wouldn't have had that if I would have started off as a project manager. I wouldn't have had that if I started off as an assistant engineer, I wouldn't have known that. The second thing I would say is that to seek out your resources, connect with people. Your net worth really is based on your network. And so you may not know a person individually, but someone may pick you to do something, or they may be able to connect you to where you're at. And the third thing I would say is don't be concerned about being an angry Black woman. Sometimes you will need to do that, and that's just par for the course. But stand in the truth and be authentic to who you are.
Great. No, good feedback. I appreciate that. One of the things we discussed was professional associations and groups. Mm-hmm. And I know you've been involved in industry groups. Mm-hmm. Please share the pros and cons and who benefits the most from being in these groups. Is it people who are just getting started or more people who are established?
Yeah, right now I'm a part of NABWIC, which is National Association of Black Women in Construction. And so they have different chapters across the country. And I'm also on ASCE's Industry Leadership Council. And so both are 2 great organizations. The pros are being able to connect with like-minded individuals. With NABWIC, you have an association of Black women who are in construction all across the country. They work in the field, they work in the office. Some people have been in the business 30 plus years. It was actually started by Ann McNeil. She's in Florida, and she too owns a construction company. And you have we have young women in there as 19, 20 that are still in college, but they don't, they want to be able to connect with other people in the industry so that they can have that support before they enter their career. With ASCE, it's a huge organization, chapters all over the world, and really just having their goal is to really grow the engineering industry across the entire country and world in some cases, but being on the cusp of innovation and how can we get more people in the industry? How can we get more engineers in this civil engineering sector? So it's great to have minds that are both from the construction world, but also there are a lot of PhDs over there. So they have a lot of educated professors. So it's great to pool the diversity of people to kind of solve the world's problems and get things done. The cons, I would say, when it comes to groups is that you really have to hope that, one, it depends on the area that you're in. Some chapters are stronger than others. If you're in a chapter, the association may be great, but maybe that particular chapter is just not as active, or they don't have the resources that you would like to see. So that could be a con. Another thing is that it really requires work and commitment. If you're going to join an organization, The purpose is to really grow your network and be a part of building your community. And so that takes time. If you are a parent, or your child's in activities and you're working 10 hours a day, it can really take away from that. So being able to have the time to commit to get everything that you can from that organization, that could be a con, if you don't have the time.
No, that makes sense. It's just how you utilize it.
Mm-hmm.
That makes a lot of sense. I know you have a nonprofit. Can you please tell us about it?
Yeah, I do have a nonprofit. It's called A Greener Tomorrow. Some years back, we started doing a lot of work with various housing projects. And so what we saw was a lot of the Section 3 residents that reside there, they weren't working. And so a lot of them would come up to the job site. They hadn't seen a Black contractor working before. And so they had a lot of inquiries, and being a Black contractor, they were like, hey, how do I get a job? How do I get a job? How do I get a job? So we started hiring from there, and it's really spun into something magnificent. And right now with A Greener Tomorrow, I decided that I wanted the opportunity to help more people. And so we are 501c3, and our goal is really to promote and advance the skilled trades to inner city youth and young adults. So we want to be in the schools, letting them know, hey, this is how we can help you. These are the resources that are out there. You don't have to go to college. You don't have to go to the military. You can create a living wage career within the skilled trades. But also, if you're over 18, hey, we can help you get started with an apprenticeship program so that you can start making money in 6 weeks to 2 months, and you have a viable trade that you can take with you for life.
No, that's powerful, because especially since these young people that are going through your nonprofit are seeing results fairly quickly, as you said, 6 months to a year. That's no time at all.
Yeah.
And I would imagine the wages are definitely better than what they get in retail or anywhere else.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I remember the first time we had a group of apprentices, and we started a project in Northern California. And when they saw the prevailing wage rate, they just could not believe it, that they were going to be making $65 an hour. We were sad.
What? Hold on, say that again. Please say that again.
Yeah. They were making, in California, everything is prevailing wage if you're doing public works of any sort. And so I think at the time it was about $65 an hour.
Wow, that's
so
really
you're
good.
talking about someone, and we're not talking about the thing about it. People think it's just a monetary thing. It isn't, because more than that, these people, this was the first time people had ever flew on a plane. This was the first time people had ever left the city of Atlanta. This is the first time people ever went to the beach. And so it just wasn't about the fact that you were making the $65 an hour. You were actually having various milestones in your life that you can say, hey, if it weren't for this job opportunity, I would have never been able to go to Santa Monica Beach. I wouldn't have been able to fly on a plane and, be able to stay in a hotel. I mean, some people have never stayed in a hotel. And the things that a lot of us take for granted when you are living in an inner city or in a low-income area, you're restricted. You're told that this is what your life is. This is all that's out for you. You go to college if you can, or you go work at McDonald's, and this is the best that it gets, and it doesn't. So I'm very proud of what we do and the opportunities that we're able to provide.
I agree with you. One of the things I try and encourage young people to do, if they can, and I think the skilled trades really gives this opportunity, is to travel, to go work somewhere else. Mm-hmm. And as long as you can work with your hands, there's a city and you have a skill trade, you can work virtually anywhere. I know the welders, they have jobs where they're saying they're paying people per diem and paying them to go out and work on a site and on a project. And so if you're a young person, you don't have anything tying you down, why not? Yeah. Go explore another city in this country. You'll learn a lot, and you can't underestimate the power of being able to go travel to a different city. I lived in Philadelphia for a couple of years, and I remember when I'd run into people who were from Philadelphia is a city of neighborhoods, and I was shocked when I saw a lot of young people who'd never left their neighborhood. We're not talking the city of Philadelphia. I'm talking their neighborhood, right where they lived.
Yeah, being from
And
Chicago.
I would imagine that's any big city.
Yeah, being from Chicago, grew up on the south side of Chicago, but there are people who've never been downtown. And you have people who come all over the world to see the city of Chicago and see the Sears Tower,
Oh, yeah.
and visit the water tower, and go to a baseball game. And they're like, no, never been downtown. And same thing when I lived in Los Angeles. There were people who'd never gone to the beach. I'm like, how can you not go to the beach? It's right there.
I know.
Like, oh.
It's a mindset. It's a mindset.
It is a mindset.
It's a mindset.
And so
definitely
a lot of what we do is focused on your mindset, because that's everything that you can achieve and not achieve. It all starts within your mind. I could have never achieved the things that I have achieved and manifested the things in my life if I had not set those intentions. But in setting those intentions, someone else needed to plant the seed and say that you can do this. This is something that you can viably do and you can make a life for it. I wouldn't have known that if someone didn't tell me that. And so that's why I think it's so important for me to continuously give other people that opportunity and show them the access that they have when they open their mind to other possibilities.
Final question. Tell us how people can find you. Please share your contact information. We're definitely going to put it in the notes, but please let us know how people can find you and when your nonprofit is going to launch.
Yeah, we're definitely launching this. What is this? The beginning of March. We're taping this.
Yes.
By the time this comes out, it will be out, and people can go to agreenertomorrow.org. And if you're looking for me personally, I'm on Instagram, Construction Law Gal, GAL, as well as LinkedIn, Jennifer Todd, MLS. And so you can find me there.
Excellent. Well, Jennifer, thank you so much for being on the Skill Stadium podcast. I wish you much success with your business and much success with this nonprofit. I think you're doing great things and you're going to impact a lot of lives.
Well, I hope so. And thank you so much for having me. Keep doing good work with Skill Stadium.
Will do. My pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.